Hi, this is Lisa, and you are listening to I Love That Movie. This podcast is for movie lovers. It's not an unbiased opinion, it's not a straightforward review, it's just a couple people talking about a movie that they love. The format is each week I have a guest, and that guest and I discuss a movie that they love, something they're obsessed with, something they connect with. We'll talk about the plot, the director, and the actors, but we'll also talk about the personal connection my guest has with that movie. So if that sounds like something you want to listen to, keep listening. Hey, this is Lisa, and if you like what you hear today, please subscribe and rate the show. It helps new listeners find us. And you can find me on Twitter or X at ILTM Podcast. I'm also on Instagram. I Love That Movie Podcast, and we have a Patreon. Show is always free, but if you want to support us on there, you can. That's at patreon.com/I Love That Movie. And we have a returning guest. We have Danny. Say hi, Danny.
Hello, Lisa.
Hello. We're talking about a movie today, but it's not from your typical lineup. We're not I think this one's a little bit different than some of the other films that you've picked.
Yep. Yeah,
But
there's a
if
reason
yeah.
for that.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, before we dive in, if people have not heard your name on the podcast, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I actually have some new credits to talk about,
Oh,
or plugs,
nice.
if you will.
Wonderful.
Since I've last been on, I've launched a film festival in my new hometown of Bisbee, Arizona, the Royale Film
Wow.
Festival. We had our second annual was last year. I actually wasn't part of the first one, but the second one we had, I think, over 60 films from 20 different countries. We had shorts and features, and we had the Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land, which did not have U.S. distribution at the time. We were able to
Wow.
get that. That was really cool. That was our opening night movie. And then it was so successful, we actually did a second festival just for animation, the Bisbee Festival of Animation. And we had over 1,600 submissions, and we narrowed that down to 55 animated films from, I think, also from like 25 countries.
Wow,
So,
what a cool opportunity. And then
yeah.
it sounds like it's growing and what are the dates? Like what time of the
Well,
year is your festival?
we did it in May last year, but this year it's going to be in June. We just launched the call for entries on Film Freeway. So if anybody in your audience is a
Oh
filmmaker
yeah.
and is looking for a festival to submit to, go look for Film Festival. I'm sorry, filmfreeway.com/Royale Film Festival.
Interesting.
That's Royale as in Royale with cheese.
Love it.
And
Oh, go ahead.
also, if you are submitting, if you've heard about it here from I Love That Movie, go ahead and use the fee waiver code ILTM 2026, and we will
Oh
waive
wow,
the
thank you.
submission fee.
I love that. I love that. Well, now quick question on the criteria. Are these, full feature films? Do you have different categories?
Yeah, well, this year, because we had so many submissions in the animation festival, I decided we're not going to have as room for as many features because it takes so much longer to judge them all. So we are looking more for shorts than features.
Okay.
If somebody has a feature they want to submit, they can still do that with the code I just gave. Well, no, they can't. There's also a password to do that. It's kind of by invitation only, but you can email
Mm.
me and tell me a little bit about your feature, and we'll see if we have room for it so you don't waste your money. But in your audience's case, that doesn't matter. So
Yeah, okay. Very
yeah.
cool. Well, thank you for explaining that. I'm just thinking of a couple people I know that have some short films, so that's why I ask.
Great, perfect. Yes, and we're
Yeah,
doing live action, animation, documentary, narrative, comedy, horror, anything.
love
You know,
that. Okay, well, thank you. But Danny, you've been on this show a few times just because you have such a wide knowledge of film and you've been so involved with film. What movie did you choose to talk about today?
the Banshees of Inisherin.
Now, you and I have talked about this before. I think the second it came out, we talked
Yes.
about covering these and just hadn't
I
got around to it yet.
Well, part of why I picked it is because yeah, I'm a little bit older, and I most of the movies I picked to talk about have been like from the '70s, movies that I grew up with, that I've been familiar with for a long period of time, and they've become favorites that way. And I didn't want to come off as that old guy who thinks they don't make good movies anymore. So yeah, it's rare, but yeah, sometimes a new movie that I'm seeing for the first time does come out, and it just strikes me in such a personal way, and that's why I wanted to include that here. And I did, yeah. I wanted to bring it up the first year that it came out, but I heard you on another podcast, the Academy Rewind,
Uh-huh.
and it didn't sound like you were a big fan of it. So
Okay. That's so interesting to think about where my headspace was. You know, you ever have that experience with a movie where like you remember liking it, but then you go back and
uh
someone like you are saying like I didn't, and I'm like, oh, interesting. I don't remember what I said.
yeah,
I there were things that disturbed me about it. Let's put it
oh
that way. I
yeah,
mean, there's some
absolutely,
disturbing subject matter in the movie, but um, I don't know
yeah.
if it's a difference between not liking it or, I mean, I think it's intentional from the film. Like, there's things that make me uncomfortable.
That's true with a lot of people. I mean, I have a lot of friends who said the same thing. They turned it off once the fingers started coming up. Oops, spoiler alert.
Oh, dang. That part didn't bother me as much
Oh,
as just the ickiness of, well, we'll talk about it. We'll
yeah.
talk about it. We don't want to get too far into it. But you actually bring up a great point, Danny. If people are just now listening, they've never heard a previous episode, we're going to talk spoilers. So you might want to pause this movie and go watch it. If you're still here, this is a quick tagline of the film. It's about two lifelong friends that find themselves at an impasse when one abruptly ends their relationship with alarming consequences for both of them. So basically, a friendship ends, and there are some cascading events that happen after this that are intense. They're uncomfortable, they're emotional, so I think in retrospect, I like this movie.
Oh,
But it's got some interesting parts to it.
it can be bleak, but it's also very funny.
It
And
is funny.
I
Yeah.
don't think I knew that when I first started watching it. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that it wasn't marketed really as a comedy. And halfway through, I'm like, wow, this is hilarious. I found myself laughing a lot at it.
Have you seen any of Martin McDonagh's other movies?
Absolutely, yes. In Bruges. So that's really interesting because when I first heard about the Banshees of Inisherin, initially the title comes up and well, what does that mean? It's kind of like the Shawshank
Yeah.
Redemption effect. They
Mm-hmm.
say that Shawshank didn't do well when it first came out because people said, well, that's a weird title. And I almost,
Mm,
when I heard the title of Banshees, I immediately wasn't thinking about that's a movie I got to see. Then I saw the
right.
names involved. Martin McDonagh and Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson were behind another movie that I had the same reaction to called In Bruges.
Mm.
And everybody when that came out was telling me, you're going to like this, you have to go see it. And I'm like, what, In Bruges, what is that? I don't know what that means. And I finally saw it like years later, and I'm like, oh my god, I love this movie. So I knew that I had to give Banshees a chance because of that.
Yeah, I liked the three billboards outside of,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the full title, but
Ebbing, Missouri.
Ebbing, Missouri, thank you. I really liked that film. It's, totally, I mean, it's got some dark subject matter, but it's also got funny moments. So, like,
Mm-hmm.
that made me think, okay, I'm going to see this movie. And I liked the cast, like you mentioned already about Gleason and Colin Farrell,
Mm-hmm.
and also Barry Keoghan's in it. I think at this point in his career, I don't know that he was quite as famous yet. I feel like this was kind of around when he started kind of popping up everywhere.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't know if this is going to be in your fun facts, but yeah, the same year this came out, Barry Keoghan and Colin Farrell were both in The Batman.
I had not even thought of that. That's I couldn't remember when exactly. Wow.
It's
Okay,
the same year,
yeah.
yeah. Barry was
Yeah.
the Joker at the end, just a little cameo.
Yes, yes, yes. That was not one of my two quick facts, but I'll share a couple facts. I like
Well,
that fact. Um, just kind of you talked about not knowing what the meaning was, right? So,
mm,
Although I'm sure you know what banshee means, but in case people don't, it is a anglicized, sorry, term for BNC, I guess, from Irish meaning woman of the fairy mound or fairy woman. She's a spirit in Irish folklore who heralds the death of a family member, usually by screaming, wailing, shrieking, or keening. And so I guess we could think about like the death of what? Of a friendship? There is a death
Well,
in the movie.
there's two
Yeah.
literal deaths that she
Hmm.
specifically warns about. Yeah. Jenny is the donkey is the first death, and then
Oh,
the
I didn't think
yeah.
about that.
Oh yeah, and then the second one is Dominic, Barry Keegan's character.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm excited to talk about when that is foretold. But Brendan Gleeson is a skilled fiddle player in real life and plays his
Yes,
own music here, just like he did in The Grand Seduction and Cold Mountain. I
right.
did not know that. Very
Yeah.
cool. Those are my quick facts. I don't know if you want to go through the cast or your favorite points of the film or up to you.
How do you want to do it?
Um, I guess we could talk about the actors. We already talked a little
Okay.
bit about Barry Keoghan. How about
Yeah, he was also in
Colin?
Saltburn, and yeah,
Yes. Oh, that was like a huge movie when it
yeah, yeah,
came
yeah.
out. Yeah, he started just popping up
Hmm.
everywhere.
Hmm. Well, and that was
Um,
because he had gotten an Oscar nomination for Banshees,
mhm,
so that obviously puts him on people's radar as
for
far as
sure.
casting. Yeah.
I think I'm trying to think of the first time I saw him. It might have been The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh yeah.
Um, and also Colin Farrell's in that movie with him
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
he's gonna be Ringo pretty soon.
Ringo
Uh,
and
yeah, like
what
the
ended?
Beatle.
Oh,
Yeah,
I didn't.
in the Beatles films that what's his name? Sam Mendes is making.
Oh, very cool. I hadn't heard about that.
Mm-hmm. I think he's gonna be in it.
Yeah.
I think he's making a movie about like each Beatle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he's one of the Beatles. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
I'm
random
looking forward to
fact.
that.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think he's a very interesting actor. I feel like lately he's kind of rebranded himself as like heartthrobby. I kind of miss weird little guy Barry Keoghan. Like I think
Mhm.
that's my favorite version of him.
Yeah. Yep.
But
And
yeah.
Colin Farrell, I kind of first noticed him in a movie called Phone Booth. Do you remember that one?
Yes, I do remember that movie.
Because he has to
Action
carry the
flick.
whole movie by himself. He's just him in a phone
Mm-hmm.
booth, literally.
Yeah, he does a good job. Like the movie, like I thought was okay, but
Uh-huh.
he's really good in it.
Yeah, yeah, got it.
Um, Yeah, well, with Colin Farrell, let's see. Well, he was in a not particularly great season of True Detective, which made me
Oh,
so sad because I really like him. But that season was just okay. Let's see, what else? I honestly thought the Penguin Show was really good.
I haven't seen that one yet.
It's good. It's like, there's no Batman in it. There's no
Mhm.
like superhero stuff. It's really just about him being a mobster and it's just interesting. He's so evil, but they make you feel sorry for him. I thought it was a really good performance.
Okay. I've heard that they're eventually they're going to bring in Barry Keoghan as the Joker,
Oh, really?
but they Warner Brothers was trying to uh, not have too much Joker going on in their different universes.
Yeah. I mean, that's understandable. He does get almost overused, although
Yeah.
he is probably my favorite villain, but but I can understand like we've had a lot of Joker recently with the
Yeah.
Joker movie and
Right.
Jared Leto, and yeah,
Yeah.
I can understand that. But yeah, also I really liked him in A Killing of a Sacred Deer, and specifically like the dynamic between him and Barry Keoghan. So
Hmm.
good idea to bring him back together
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. And speaking of bringing them back, Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson, we already talked about, are reuniting from In Bruges.
Yeah, and
Uh,
what was In Bruges about?
In Bruges is about two hitmen, and something goes wrong with one of the killings. So they are sent to a small fairy tale like village in Belgium called Bruges to hide out until they get further instructions. And I don't want to spoil too much of it, but Colin Farrell's character hates Bruges. And Brendan
Oh,
Gleeson's is like, oh, it's so pretty. Let's go sightseeing. And they have a lot of conflict about that.
that's so interesting. So like they're sort of their dynamic continues in this movie of like
Absolutely. I mean,
adversarial.
and even in that one, Colin's character is more the dull one, the dim-witted one, a little bit.
Plays that very well.
It's the same dynamic, but they at the beginning of the movie they don't really like each other. By the end, they come together. They care deeply for each other, and in the Banshees, it's the absolute opposite.
Yes. Okay. Well, are there any more actors that you want to talk about from the film?
Well, all four of the main actors were nominated for the Oscar. That makes the there were only
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there were only 12 other movies in Oscar history before that to have gotten 4 acting nominations or more. And then this year, there's another one with Sentimental Value. So that's a total of 14 movies in 98 years.
And so is the fourth person Carrie?
Carrie Condon. I don't know too much about her. I did just rewatch 3 Billboards. She's in that small part. But she's really good in it, and she was in Better Call Saul. She played Mike's wife, like Aaron Trout. Yeah.
In this movie, she plays is it Colin Farrell's sister?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, I kind of want to talk about the plot of the movie now. Let's talk about it. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, you mentioned that they're brother and sister, and I really like that because that's so unusual.
It is.
You don't see a lot of movies where main characters are adult brothers and sisters. You see it with kids a lot, but go ahead.
Yeah. And I feel like there is a theme throughout this about loneliness, I guess.
Yeah, the very first shots you see of the island, it just screams isolation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In the whole movie, I think one feeling that makes me uncomfortable the whole movie is just like, and it's I think said a couple times in the film, or at least implied that like if these people would just get off this island, it's like becoming this pressure cooker between all of them, and it has a lot to do with all of them occupying the same space when they don't necessarily need to, but because the island is so little, they can't avoid each other either, and it's just it's uncomfortable. 100%. Claustrophobic.
Yes. You wouldn't think that all of his movies are very location specific. And he plays against the location. So in Bruges, it's this fairy tale village, and there's this hitman there. And Inisherin it's a fictional island, but it's very idyllic, and yet there's this internal struggle going on with these people. And even Seven Psychopaths was Hollywood. It was L.A., but it's about this writer who's blocked, who can't figure out what his movie's going to be. And of course, Ebbing, Missouri is another one where it looks beautiful the way they shot. And I don't know if it was actually shot in Missouri, but they made it look really nice. And yet there's all this turmoil beneath it. So it's a running theme with him for sure.
And with Colin Farrell, like he's, handsome, right? And you think, I don't know, it's just in the movie, it's sort of, I think, meant to be a little surprising that he's alone, but I guess it's just because there's just not a lot of women on that island. There's just not a lot of people. And so he's kind of lonely and doesn't fit in. And it's interesting because he looks like someone that would fit in anywhere, but he kind of doesn't on this island.
Yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned it, everyone's pretty much alone on that island.
The sister doesn't have a partner.
Right.
Gleason, but Gleason likes being alone. I think that's what's unique about him is he wants to be alone.
They both have their animals.
Oh, that's true.
The dog and the donkey.
The dog and the donkey. That's true. And then Barry Keoghan, who is desperately alone and
he's the one they're all seeking something, and Dominic, that's Barry Keoghan's character, is seeking connection. He's trying to connect with the sister Siobhan, and then Colum, that's Brendan Gleeson's character, is he's under the pressure of time. He's seeking kind of an immortality with his art.
That's right.
And Park, let's see, what was it? Park is seeking kindness. And I love how it starts, where you can just tell he's so happy-go-lucky. He loves his life. It's very simple. It works for him. And then suddenly, in the very first moment, all that has changed, all that's shattered.
Yeah.
And we get this feeling just without specifically being told that this was something that they do every single day of their lives. The two of them at 2:00 go down to the pub and stay there until it closes, just drinking and chatting aimlessly. And you just get that sense without having to see that set up.
Yeah.
If you look at old screenwriting books from the 70s, they teach you that your first 22 minutes you're supposed to be setting up the world before it changes, and that would have been boring. And when I look at older movies, sometimes I feel that boredom in that first act, and I didn't feel that here. It was just getting started right away. We get enough to understand what that world was, but we see how it changes right from the start.
Yeah, it makes me sad because I mean, I think we've all experienced some sort of change in a relationship that's
Mm-hmm.
abrupt and not, I don't, consensual is not the right word, but like you didn't decide it, the other person did,
Reciprocal.
and yeah, reciprocal maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so you feel so much for Colin Farrell, like it comes across
Absolutely.
so embarrassing and desperate and sad, and it's like, yeah, it just highlights how important friendship like really is.
And the way it's so abrupt,
Yeah.
it sets up a mystery. As a viewer, you're sitting there, we're sympathizing with Colin Farrell. We want to get the same answers that he got,
Yeah.
that he's seeking. I mean, we're dying to know, well, why would somebody just stop talking to you? All the other people on the island are saying, did you have a fight? I don't know. I don't think so. We're wondering that too. It's even though
Yeah.
we haven't even met them yet.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
so great at setting up that initial question that hooks you in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. And I just feel, yeah, watching it just so sad for Colin Farrell, like you said.
Exactly.
We empathize for him, and then
Mhm.
but then like I don't know, there's also a part of me watching the movie that I'm not gonna say I completely identify with Gleason, but a little bit. Like sometimes when you're really passionate about accomplishing something, you have to find a way to like minimize distraction and focus on it, and that is hard to explain to people sometimes
Mhm.
in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand it. There are definitely people I've been friends with, and I'm like, how do I get out of this friendship? They're starting to bore me. And it's a question of how he went about doing it. I think he could have found a more um,
Kind.
kindness. He could have found more kindness in the way he said, look, here's where I'm at my life. This is what I need from me. I hope you don't take offense to that, and maybe kind of wean him off a little bit. And we do see many examples throughout the movie that they do still have strong feelings for each other. They can
Yeah.
still get along. They can still talk when they want to. So it didn't need to be so abrupt. And
Maybe, or was it that Colin Farrell's constant boundary pushing is why he had to be so extreme?
it could be, yeah.
What's interesting is while that relationship is breaking down, Barry Keoghan is desperately trying to form a bond with Colin, and Colin is so annoyed by him.
Yes.
And it's
It's
a
like,
very
yeah,
similar dynamic, yeah.
yeah. He's told that he's the dull one on the island, in the friendship, Colin Farrell is. And so he goes and finds his backup friend, somebody who's duller than him.
Yeah, and someone that really seems to kind of look up to him and
Mhm.
thinks of him as like an example of a good man because his father's so awful.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's so devastating for him when he's kind of rejected by Colin.
Yeah, that's kind of the heart of the whole movie is,
Hmm.
he is living with an abusive father. He's surrounded by that his whole life, but he's learned to, he has his coping mechanisms, whatever they are, and he doesn't like it, but he accepts that. But he latches on to Park, because Colin Farrell's character, because he sees Park as the kindest person on the island, and kindness is so important to him.
Yeah.
And when he finds out that Colin did this mean thing to the guy who, was going to be Colum's new friend,
Hmm.
he tells him about the bread van killing his father or his mother. to get him off the island. And Barry Keoghan was like, wait a minute, I thought you were nice and now you're not. This is the last time we see that character alive, is when he learns. Yeah, is when he learns that. He says, you were one of the kind ones and now I think you're mean. And Colin Farrell just says, well, yeah, that maybe that's the new me. And he's like, at that point, he can't handle living there anymore if he doesn't have that little bit of kindness. And the movie, because there's another speech in the pub at one point between Colin and Brendan about kindness versus art. And
interesting.
And Brendan's argument is that kindness doesn't last. People don't remember it, and therefore it has no value.
Yeah.
And Barry Keoghan's, Dominic's point of view is the counter argument to that. And the movie is saying that, yes, kindness is important. It matters in the present. It matters to people who are still here. It matters a lot.
Yeah, and it's interesting how that, act of, not kindness, of meanness from Gleason just, it like poisons the entire town, basically.
Exactly. Yes, it does. Because what I love is the moment when he feels, he's been told that Colin liked him when he was drunk. And liked him when he was yelling at him. So he goes back there, he tries to patch things up by being mean and yelling at him, and it almost works. Colin actually says, okay, I finished my song. You're not boring anymore. You're interesting. Let's go to the pub at 2:00. And then Colin does one stupid thing. He makes a dumb, boastful comment about how he got rid of that other guy, his one mean act. And that changes the whole thing. That's the tragic hinge point of the whole movie. If he hadn't said that, they might have fixed their friendship.
Yeah.
And because of that, the last four fingers come off, which we should talk more about that.
Yes, go for it. That's
but the last
probably the most shocking scene.
Exactly. The last four fingers come off. That leads directly to the death of Jenny, which happens to coincide with the same day that Siobhan left the island. So Pádraig has lost his sister, his donkey, his best friend, all at the same time. And his world is empty now. And he's changed for the worse. This is why the line at the end, he says, what was exactly? Hang on, I wrote it down. Some things there's no moving on from, and I think that's a good thing. So he's been permanently wounded. He's had opportunities to fix it, and his meanness disrupted the whole island's harmony. Siobhan had written him a letter saying, why don't you just come over here to, after she left the island, why don't you come over here before it's too late? And we know by that point that by the time he gets that letter, it's already too late. He's already lost Jenny. He's already turned the corner. He can't go back. He's got to continue on this meanness path that he was on.
I heard something a long time ago that always stuck with me, and it's that, like, if you're miserable for too long or you're unhappy for too long, even though it's making you unhappy, it can be a friend, and you become like almost like too comfortable with being unhappy or being depressed in a way. And I'm not saying, to clarify, that depression isn't real.
Well,
but
the
it's
wound
true
becomes
that, it's like it becomes something that you fester and almost enjoy in a weird way.
Well, not really. The wound becomes his identity. He doesn't know he won't know who he is anymore. It's so deep in him that he won't recognize himself anymore if he gets rid of it. And he's such a completely different person at the end of the movie than he was at the beginning, all smiles and, just another day, let's go to the pub.
Yeah, so sad. But also an example of how someone can change so much. And how, like you said, how important kindness is because of the way it changes Colin's character.
And the other part that makes it so tragic is because they still are friends. They both care about each other. And I think my favorite scene is after the Dominic's father punches Pádraig in the town square, and Colin sees this.
Yeah.
and helps him up and helps him to get home. And they still don't speak because his rule is still in place. But you see that he cares so much about his friend that he's not going to let him lie in the street hurting. And that's so meaningful to me, that moment. They don't hate each other, even, you know, when they're talking just before, you know, the scene that I mentioned before, when he goes and storms in and starts yelling at him. Colm says, "We were doing fine," and Park says, "No, I wasn't doing fine. This is hurtful to me to not have you as my friend anymore." And I mean, the kindness he shows, even with the dog at the end, he says, you know, "Thanks for taking care of my dog anytime." You know, they don't really hate each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So why do you think it continues if they don't really hate each other? Why can't?
Well, there are a lot of references to the Irish Civil War. This was set in 1923.
Mm.
There was a 10-month conflict after the War for Independence. And I had to look all this stuff up. This wasn't what I took from the movie the first time I watched it, but I've looked it up since then. And the whole movie is really, the whole relationship between the two of them is a microcosm, a metaphor for the Irish Civil War specifically, because
Okay.
they had kind of won the war, and there was a treaty that was signed that was going to make Ireland independent, but there were two factions within Ireland who couldn't agree on whether or not to accept that treaty or whether they wanted their independence to take a different path. And they ended up fighting each other in a very bloody, brutal war, which we hear multiple times in the movie because they're on an island and they hear the fighting going on, the guns, the cannons from across the sea, and they mention it constantly. But it's subtle, but it's there. And this whole thing was meant as a metaphor for the war, how self-destructive it was. And so that's why, one of the reasons why Colm decides to cut his own fingers, it's a metaphor for how self-destructive Ireland was being.
I see.
And
Okay.
and how
Interesting.
the wound that's staying with him at the end of the movie is again representative of how deeply scarred Ireland became after this conflict. And people who were friends with each other were fighting for 10 months, and families stopped talking to each other, and it became the shame of Ireland, of the shame of their whole history. So this was very much, they call it the silent war too, because people in Ireland don't like to talk about it because it's so shameful. So this was Martin McDonagh specifically talking about the Irish Civil War, but also I think about war in general.
Yeah.
About how something that starts out as a little thing and it escalates, and it becomes, every time it escalates, it becomes more about something else, and so suddenly you don't even know what you're fighting about anymore. You're just still fighting. And there's the scene where they're in the pub, and the cop, Dominic's father, says he's going over to the mainland to help execute some of the prisoners of war. And he doesn't even remember which side he's going to help. He doesn't even remember what side is what they're fighting for. He's just, they're giving me a free lunch to go help them execute people, so I'll go.
Wow. Pure evil.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
you know.
And then Barry Keoghan's character early on, when they're talking about the war, he says, I got no use for war or soap. And it's a funny line, but again, it's so consistent. He just wants that kindness, and he doesn't want to just burden himself by thinking about what's going on across the water.
Yeah. Wow. Do we want to talk about the figurative and literal banshees? Or banshee?
I mean, what I could gather, it wasn't my favorite part of the movie initially. It still isn't, I don't think. But I all I can think of is that invoking the banshees is his way of signaling that this is, that's a symbol of Irish folklore, that this is kind of a fairy tale or a fable. It's not meant to be taken so literally. So some people have a hard time with some of the things that they do to each other there. And it is more of a fable.
Yeah. And she's silent. She's an old lady. She shows up in both scenes, like you said, right before the death. I forgot about that. Yeah.
She's observing, and so are we as an audience. We're observing. We know that these deaths are coming, and they don't know the Banshee doesn't know who's going to die. She says, I hope it isn't you and Siobhan. But what the Banshees do is they grieve in advance of a death. They portend death, and they grieve in advance.
And so you said that you're not sure you like this part. What about it,
Well, for me,
was different?
For me, that kind of thing is just a little bit too poetic.
Like a little too on the nose, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Like you could almost just take that character out and it wouldn't really change much about the film.
Right.
I don't know. I think I like it a little bit just because I like the idea of calling attention to the fact that it's a fable, that we're not meant to take it so seriously, because I think you could watch the film and be like, well, what was that about? And I think she does kind of add a little bit of like, hey, this is, a little bit of a fairy tale, like you said. But I can see both ways.
Yeah.
What are some of your other favorites?
Let's talk about the fingers. Why does he cut his fingers off?
Why does he cut his fingers off? Yes, go ahead.
Again, to me, that's just another example of how much they love each other. He is not, he wants Park to leave him alone, but he loves him too much. He's not going to hurt him. He even says, I don't want to hurt your feelings, so this is how I'm going to handle it. I'd rather hurt myself. But he also is doing it because he knows Park loves him, and he's hoping that Park won't want to see him hurt himself. It's twisted, it's bizarre, it's irrational, but it makes sense.
Yeah, and it's so extreme. Like it's not open to interpretation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to literally cut my fingers off, and my art is important to me, and it could impact my art. Yeah, it's like, if you love me, leave me alone.
Exactly. And I've talked to some people who said they thought that this was just another example of like Van Gogh cutting his ear off. This is just, about crazy artists. And I don't think it's that.
No,
I think it's more than that.
I agree with you.
And when he goes to confession and the priest asks him, how are you doing with your despair? And, despair is one of the sins. And it's a sin it's the one that he's not admitting that he's guilty of. But it's the only one that the priest cares about. It's self-mutilation. That's a big one. But your real problem is, despair is giving up hope, giving up faith. And that's what the priest is most concerned about with Colm.
What do you think is Colm's, like, why is he so extreme? Why is he like this? Like, what do you think is going on with him?
He's at a point in his life where he's realized he's mortal. It's mortality is creeping up on him, and he's very straightforward about that. He said he wants to leave something behind. He believes that his art is a way to not have wasted his life.
Do you also feel like, in a way, like he's, you talk about that despair, his times running short, maybe he's a little bit jealous that Colin Farrell is young and dumb and full of life and has a whole life ahead of him, and what he used to like about him is now making him just like really bitter and jealous.
That's a great read. I like that.
And he's just, and I think that can happen in some ways, right? Like you meet somebody that's just out of college and they're all excited, and you're kind of like instantly a little defensive, like, well, they're going to find out how the real world is. And, it's like, it's because you're jealous, and like, I think that might be what's going on with him. I hadn't thought about that before, but just hearing you talk about it, I think that's kind of what I was thinking with him.
Yeah. It's interesting to try to figure out why some people didn't like it. I mean, it didn't do well when it first came out, and then when it got all the Oscar nominations, they re-released it. And then it did really well. I think it made $100 million after that. But I'd have talked to many people who's like, oh, I can't handle that. As soon as the fingers started coming off, I just had it. But what's interesting is you don't actually see any of the gore. I mean, you see the bloody stump and stuff like that, but you don't see the blade touching the skin. You never see him even holding the blade up to his fingers. You don't even hear it happen off screen. It's just, we know he's going for the shears. It only happens twice. The first time, he just heads to the house after Park has talked to him about something, and he didn't want to. Says, okay, I got to make a point of this. I got to teach him a lesson, and we don't know for sure he's going to do it, and we don't see him do it. Instead, we hear that we're inside the house with Park and Siobhan, and we hear the finger hit the door. We hear a thump on the door, and it turns out to be the finger. And that's just such a funny way to I like dark humor, and this is definitely that. But what's interesting is it's not really that gory. And this came out the same year as All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah.
And they both got the same number of Oscar nominations. All Quiet won 4 of them, and Banshees didn't win any. And a lot of people praised All Quiet for being an anti-war message, but to me, I couldn't get through it. I couldn't sit through it. It's 140 minutes of nonstop carnage and brutal war violence, and that to me isn't building a story. It's not building character. And in the Banshees of Inisherin, which is also an anti-war message, it's internal. It's emotional.
I'll be honest and say I didn't know it was an anti-war message, and I think that would have changed my impression of it. The first time, I think it was a little over my head. And maybe for a lot of audience members.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is subtle. It's in the background, but it's always there. It's always being talked about.
You're right. The war is mentioned many times.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like in an action movie, when they escalate things, it just means bigger set pieces with bigger explosions and faster car chases and over the top stunts. And here, when they escalate things, it's all internal. It's all the stakes, the emotional stakes are escalating. The way Park is changing, is transforming from a kind person into a mean person. Yeah, that's all internal.
And you feel like that's like a little bit of a metaphor for when these really good, kind men left home and they face the horrors of war. It changes them.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Profound. We went deep. Like I said, sometimes with movies, I think, it sounds like I had a first initial impression. And that's happened to me many times where in the moment I'm like, I don't know if I like that. Like I remember seeing that movie, Hereditary, and I left the theater and I was just like, I don't know if I hated that or not. Like, I don't. and I remember Nick being like, but weren't you so like truly disturbed, like to your core? And I was like, yeah. He's like, maybe that's what you're feeling and not that you didn't like it. And I was like, I think you're right. And like when I think back on that movie, I've seen it a few times now and really enjoy it, but it was just so different. And sometimes, and I think this movie is like that a little bit too. Sometimes a film is so different from what your expectation of what it's going to be, like not just like what you predicted would happen, but it's truly different from other movies. And that can be a little bit like throw you off balance, and you really have to process it.
Well, yeah, and sometimes when you're watching a film for the first time, you're still discovering what's going to happen next. And then if you watch it a second time, knowing where it's going, you can spot the foreshadowing. For instance, there's a shot right after he's cut off his finger. We get a shot of the dog licking the stump where his finger used to be. And comforting him and everything, and then we cut directly. There's a smash cut or a match cut to the donkey nosing the cigar box that has the finger in it. Now, the first time you see that, you don't know how the donkey's going to die, but knowing that the second time, you go, oh, that's foreshadowing.
Yeah, poor donkey.
Poor donkey. Yeah, and I love that Jimmy Kimmel brought him to the Oscars that
year. That's cute.
Yeah.
I feel like donkeys don't get enough love, like they're cute animals actually.
Oh, especially the miniature donkey.
Yeah. Poor little donkey. Is there another part of the film that we haven't yet discussed that you wanted to touch on?
I just love the humor of it.
Oh yeah, you talked about that in the beginning too.
I don't think people always recognize it because it's one of those things. He likes to Martin McDonagh likes to wrap comedy in tragedy.
It makes a lot of sense, and I think like as a story device too, you sometimes have to give your audience a break. you know, and so that humor gives a little bit of a break, but in life, humor and tragedy do exist at the same time.
Yes, and this is the kind of humor that's also very character driven. It's not
Hmm.
jokes like you would find in a Judd Apatow movie. It's, you have to understand the emotional dynamics of all of these characters and what their relationship is to each other to get some of the lines, why they're funny.
Yeah.
When Dominic is trying to, when Dominic is over for dinner with Siobhan, and he's asking her all these questions, and she's saying, he told you not to be stupid, and Dominic says, no, he said creepy, not stupid. I mean, that's a hilarious line. Well, you failed on both counts.
Yeah.
Uh, oh, and when there's another line I like when several times when Colin is explaining to Siobhan why he just doesn't like Park anymore because he's boring, and she goes, "You're all feckin' boring." That's another
So
thing that
funny.
she repeats. She hates the island. Her need is to escape. If Dominic's need was kindness and Park's need was that friendship, her need is to escape.
Yeah, I think she sees that it's a losing battle. Just get out of there.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
nobody can, you know.
right.
Everyone else feels trapped there. So interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's so rare that a movie just jumps out at me. So,
Yeah.
when it's brand new, I do tend to favor movies that I've lived with for a long time, but this
Well,
one just really stuck out.
yeah, I mean, I think we all have like an era where we
Mhm.
really got into film, and so that tends to
Yeah.
be like the few years that you really go back and think about a lot.
Yeah. When I was in high school, I worked in a movie theater, so I got to see a ton of movies, and even the ones that aren't good, I still like the nostalgia of remembering hearing those lines over and over again, like a record.
Yeah. For me, it was like late 90s, early 2000s was when
Yeah,
I kind of really got into it. So, like, almost all my favorite movies are within that, like, 3 or 4
exactly.
year time span. Yeah. But no, I agree that this was really thought provoking. But honestly, this discussion around it gave me a lot more to think about. I did not realize the metaphor about war, and I think that makes it more interesting. And even though that didn't, kind of like me, I didn't really know what I was watching the first time.
Mhm.
You talk about a new movie, but I feel like as time goes on, we're getting less and less stories like this,
Mhm.
which is sad because they don't generate tons of money at the box office, but they're still
Right.
important and need to be told. And, um, the fact that this got a theatrical release is great.
Yeah, and this was still coming off of this was in the post-COVID era, and people
Hmm.
weren't going back to the theaters except for the tentpole movies. They certainly
Yeah,
weren't going back for a small movie like this, and
true.
that's part of why I didn't go back. The kinds of people who would like a small, independent, character-driven story were the older people who were more afraid to go back to a theater.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
understandably.
so
Yeah.
and that's interesting because like Shawshank, some people were afraid of that because of the title, and it didn't get discovered until years later on home video.
Yeah.
And in this case, because of where we were with COVID and they had a smaller window for streaming, people did get to discover it at home. And
Mm.
so I don't know that this is going to have a resurgence of the discovery in the coming years. I think it should. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorites of all time. But
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I also think that like at least here in Dallas, like, there's been a couple Angelicas that shut down and they
oh
showed
yeah.
independent film. Like I feel like that's becoming more rare too.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's just as things get bigger and bigger and bigger, it's like, does this film have an IP? If not, it's not gonna
Right.
generate box office success, and there's something sad about that. Like
Yeah.
I like movies and stories that are small because you get to spend a lot more time with those characters. I know people call it Oscar bait, but in my opinion, you know, if you watch a lot of movies, you'll understand. Like you'll like the Oscar bait films. There is
Mhm.
something different about them, and that's why
Yeah.
they end up getting nominated. Yeah.
Right.
So, well said. I guess that kind of brings me to the last couple of quick questions here then. What about this film, what made it like your instant favorite if you had to sum it up?
Well, I related to what Park was going through right from the start, because when I was a kid, I had a best friend from second grade all the way through the end of high school. And like the day after high school graduation, he just stopped talking to me. I
Painful.
called him on the phone like I would every day. I mean, we were like
Oh.
Colin and Park. We would hang out every single day after school for all those years. And all of a sudden he hangs up on me. I thought he dropped the phone. I called him back. Like, what happened? He dropped it. Like, he hangs up again. And
wow, very non-confrontational. Did you ever find out?
Like, I never did find out. And like, so this is why I sympathize so much with Colin Farrell's characters, because it was abrupt. It had no explanation. I asked other people, mutual friends of ours, like, no, he hasn't said anything to me. Did you guys have a fight? It was the exact same situation. And I never did find out. And, you know, once we reached the age of Google and social media, I did try to track him down, but he had one of those names that, you know, comes up with 5,000 other people.
He's like Jason Smith or something.
Yeah. But then I finally, you know, I remembered, I'll look, I know his middle name, I know his date of birth. So I finally looked him up that way, and I found his obituary. And it was only a week.
That's horrible.
And it was only a week old.
He
had just died when I found him that way. So I will never know the answer. But that's kind of that's one of the, and this was that was maybe 5 years before this came out.
Wow. So
that was still fresh, and you know, that non-closure was still there in me.
Oh no. Well, this is going to make me sound like a bad person. I feel like I've been the other character before. For me at least, I've a couple of times I've been like, we're done. And usually for me, I think, I don't know, people constantly accuse me of being very people pleasy, which is true. But I also, for me, I felt like we'd already had that conversation about 100 times. And so when I ended it with, you know, with a friend, it's like, hey, we've tried this many times and it's not working, you know. But I have wondered how they felt about it. Do they agree that we had that conversation? I mean, luckily we had. There's been at least one case where I didn't have a big conversation about it. I just quietly kind of stepped away. And I feel guilty about it, but the thought of going back to it is too much.
Yeah. I mean, there's this one friend I've known for like 40 years, and we both recognize that we're each the kind of person who pushes people out of our lives, and yet the two of us still manage to reconnect every so often. So
yeah, I will say, like, I've talked about this with friends, that I tend to get along the best with people that are okay with time in between. I think I'm a real introvert. I'm a homebody. I need to recharge, and I often do that. And so the friendships that understand that, we stay friends. The ones that don't are the kind that are messaging me and going and telling me how upset they are. And I'm like, I don't know I can't change. Like, this is who I am, you know? Yeah. And so, interesting. Yeah. But I don't think, I was not like your friend from high school. I wouldn't do that. I would never do that.
At least Brendan Gleeson eventually explains it to him. And it's a weird explanation. He doesn't understand it. He doesn't accept it, but at least he got that. You know? Yeah,
I feel like, I mean, in high school, I'm going to guess he was one of those people that's like, as soon as school's over, I'm going to reinvent myself. And, you know, because I know my husband kind of did that. He used to have a lot of friends from high school. He's like, I don't want to hang out with these people anymore. Yeah. Just all of a sudden, and everyone was like, you're so mean. But it was like, he wasn't happy, but he felt stuck in it. And then he got away from it and he felt better. And it's just, but man, it's painful. Things change. It's inevitable, right? And it's difficult. Like, the people that you were really close with 10 years ago, some of them you're still close to, some of them you're not.
Yeah.
Some of the people that have, like, one of my friends I'm actually going to see right after this, we met waiting tables when we were like 18. Why have we been friends for decades? I don't know.
Right.
I have no idea. You know, it just happens. So interesting. Well, didn't mean to make it so personal, but thank you again, Danny, for your patience around recording, as you know, and as I'm sure my listeners realize. I've been doing it less often, but I still care a lot about the podcast, and I'm really happy that you were patient and came back, and I hope to have you back soon.
I hope to be back soon. Thank you.